One ICE spokesman warned top managers.
These are quite horrible medical stories. I think we need to have a pretty strong response to keep this from becoming a very damaging national story.
The Times first asked the government about Boubacar Ba back in 2007. A government spokesman claimed that he could not check out the case because the reporter did not have the man's full name and alien registration number. But records now show the spokesman did know about the case, warning officials that he had been contacted by New York Times journalist Nina Bernstein, and they began to discuss sending Ba back to Africa to keep the story quiet.
We are the friend, the best friend. He is a very, very, very good person. Everybody like Boubacar.
Sadio Diallo was Boubacar Ba's roommate in this apartment in Flatbush, Brooklyn. They both regularly worked 10-hour days, 6 days a week, as tailors to earn money for their families back home.
We have problem our country, you know. In Guinea, nothing good. That's why we come here.
Ba came to the United States in 1998 on a tourist visa, but stayed on illegally, working in New York for 8 years. He longed to be able to visit his family back in West Africa, and then be able to return legally to New York. So when he heard about a special green card program that might allow that, he applied.
And he applied for the permission. He applied, and then they sent him the answer saying that, yeah, he can go back home.
Ba received permission from immigration authorities to travel outside the United States while his case was pending. So he left for Africa, recording his trip on video. For the first time in many years, he saw his 2 sons, his 2 wives, and his elderly mother.
Coming back, he stayed home for like 3 months. Coming back here, he was arrested. And then they told him, you know, your case was denied.
The private company Ba had relied on to apply for the green card program had given him bad advice. Immigration authorities arrested him at Kennedy Airport because they had rejected his green card application while he was away in Africa, revoking his permission to re-enter the U.S. He could either turn around and go back to Guinea or fight his case from the Elizabeth Detention Center in New Jersey, run by Corrections Corporation of America, a private prison company.
We put the money together, we hired a lawyer, so back and forth, you know, I guess he was denied.
Ba languished in detention for 9 months.
Okay.
Sadio Diallo spoke to Ba regularly, but one day he was surprised by a call from a detainee in Ba's dorm whom he had never met.
One guy up there in the detention center, he called me. He said, you know what happened in Boubacar? I said, no, no, what happened to him?
Ba was in the hospital with a skull fracture and multiple brain hemorrhages. He had been injured 4 days earlier, and no one from immigration had contacted Ba's lawyer, his friends, or his family.
There is it's important to call us. They never did. They never make any move. They never make any move to call us and let us know the situation.
Just how Ba was injured is still unclear, but confidential reports by detention center staff, obtained later by the New York Times, say that he passed out in the bathroom of his dorm and was found unconscious on the floor. Incident reports note that when Ba was brought to the medical unit, which was run by ICE and the Public Health Service, he became agitated and uncooperative, grabbing at the staff.
The subject was placed on the floor and restraints were applied with no further incident.
Medical personnel failed to recognize his behavior as textbook signs of intracranial bleeding. Instead, Ba was shackled. With the approval of the physician's assistant on call, a guard made the following report.
After scream and moan, the above-named detainee began to regurgitate on the floor in medical.
Because he was not following orders, the detention center staff put Ba in solitary confinement and filmed him. At least twice, guards requested that medical check on Ba, but no one came. There is no available footage of what happened in the hours after this video was taken, but the staff noted regular updates on Ba's deteriorating condition. Almost 10 hours after Ba's fall.
I attempted to wake him up to eat chow with no response.
Then 11 hours.
He began to breathe heavily and started foaming slightly at the mouth.
And 12.5 hours later.
At 20:30, the foaming seems to have stopped and his breathing is steady. He is still unresponsive. Medical has not visited the detainee since I called the first time.
Almost 15 hours after Ba's fall, the detention center staff finally called an ambulance. Ba was rushed into emergency brain surgery. Still, Ba's family was not notified. The new records now show that the day after Ba's brain surgery, the warden at the Elizabeth Detention Center reported the incident to the jail company, including the fact that medical personnel did not respond to requests to visit detainee until it was too late. When informed, one ICE official sent a BlackBerry message to a colleague.
Please review and follow up on allegations of public health service staff slow to respond.
5 days after Ba's head injury, officials finally called the family and told them he was at University Hospital in Newark.
When we were there, we were shocked because he was laying down over there, like with a surgery on his head. They talking about he got a brain damage.
While Ba lay comatose, an ICE spokesman was still denying knowledge of his case. Soon after, 10 top ICE managers were on a conference call trying to figure out how to get the unconscious man out of their custody. The hospital wanted to transfer Ba to a nursing home for long-term care. That would cost ICE over $122,000 a year. Officials had another worry, too. ICE must be prepared for increased scrutiny and/or media exposure. One option they explored at length was deporting the comatose man back to his native Guinea. But after a staffer warned that the country was near collapse and nursing homes do not exist, that plan was scrapped. Another strategy was to grant Ba the legal immigration status he had been denied before, in hopes of making him eligible for Medicaid or Social Security disability benefits to pay for his care. After the hospital actually moved Ba to a nursing home, immigration authorities settled on a third course. Ba's cousins in New York would be responsible for paying his medical bills, even though they had already protested they couldn't afford it. But days before the planned release, Ba's cousins received a call.
They call us, they say we have to come to the hospital. And on our way over there, they call us again and say that he died.
The day after Ba's death, one immigration official emailed another, recommending the unusual step of funding the transfer of Ba's remains back to Guinea for burial. One reason he cited was to avoid the media coverage that could result if Ba's surviving spouse showed up in the United States for a funeral.
I also don't want to stir up any media interest where none is warranted.
When the Times obtained a list of immigrant detainees who had died in ICE custody, Ba's name was on it. A year after he died, he was on the front page. Only days before, an internal ICE review of his case had concluded,
"No action warranted. ICE employees not at fault."
Back in Guinea, Ba's first wife remarried, then died in childbirth, leaving his 2 teenage sons orphaned. His second wife can barely pay for milk for his toddler.
He just came to this country to have a better life, you understand?